Well, first and foremost, it is a long-term investment. That's one thing that we cannot understate, because it's not something that you can plant today and harvest in the next year or so. It takes maybe 4 or 5 years, in some instances maybe even longer than that, before you can start enjoying the benefits of planting a fruit tree. However, for me, it has been an exciting journey. Not for me, my wife and I, it's been an exciting journey, because first and foremost, we knew very little about fruit farming. So we're learning as we go. And so far, I still believe that the museum of my grandparents is visiting us, because our fruit trees seem to be doing quite well here. Interesting to note, despite the little knowledge that I have, and which I'm still developing in terms of planting fruits in Malawi, I've noted that we have got the land, we've got the fertility of our land, or despite the fact that I came to a piece of land that is actually leached of nutrients, we're still able to plant fruit trees and get quality fruit out of it. The other thing that inspires me to go flat out on the fruit farm is to prove that we have got the ability to produce fruit instead of importing fruit into this country. I feel that the younger generation, if they are into farming, they should consider dedicating a certain acreage of their land towards planting fruit trees, because it is possible to generate long-term returns through fruit farming. So far, from what I'm now learning, because at the beginning it was like shooting in the dark. Right now we're getting a little bit more light and vision on how to nurture a tree from the time we plant it. And from what I've seen in the last couple of years, I reckon that there are certain fruit trees that you could start harvesting at least a minimum quantity of fruit within a period of 3 to 4 years. Yeah. So that, unfortunately, the big question arises on the issue of organic and fertilized fruit trees.
Exactly.
So one has got to draw a fine line between the two, and that process I'm still learning at the moment. But I can assure you that there is very little that anybody can expect to harvest without going in the way of fertilizing, because not every soil or every piece of ground has all the nutrients that a plant would need. Well, I think there are a lot of people in the country in various districts who are planting fruit trees, and they are able to give us, to determine for us or guide us on how long it takes to get fruit trees to start yielding fruit. For example, here we planted macadamia trees, and about the 5th year we started harvesting minimum quantities, but at least we were harvesting some fruit. We've planted other fruit trees like peaches. We've planted Oriental and Asian pears, which seem to be scarce in the country, but because they're not really popular. But they're also equal, they're as good as apples, as far as I'm concerned. We've got fruits like pomegranates, which we're planting here. Those, within a period of 4 years, one should be able to harvest a fruit, at least to be able to still keep one's keen interest in trying to develop that fruit. We planted 26 varieties of fruit and fruit-related plants, trees. Of these 26 varieties, there are some which are very few, but the majority of them we've gone into are like the Hass avocado, mangoes, pomegranates, peaches, and bananas. We've also started bananas. We've planted pawpaw. We've planted a whole variety of them. I can actually smell success. I feel very excited that it's going to work. And in that respect, I would encourage people to seriously consider where they've got access to water and be able to sustain particularly the water needs of trees. And if the soil is fertile enough, or you can amend the soil to make sure that it can carry the kind of fruit tree, it can only be successful. So far we have planted fruit trees per se 3,200.
Just fruit trees?
Just fruit trees. But beyond those fruit trees, we've also got a few other varieties that we haven't really concentrated on, like Mexican apple, which they call masuku, oza, which is custard apple. We've got lychees. No, lychees is part of the trees, but we also got figs. Figs also. We planted some hybrid figs here, and I was amazed. Within a year, we were able to start harvesting.
Dragon fruit.
Yeah.
Dragon fruit.
Yeah, we've planted some jackfruit. We've planted some dragon fruit as well. All these are showing promise, but we have yet to develop them fully. I mean, right now we're actually learning how to fertilize the fruit in accordance with the nutrients that are lacking with the soil. And we are hoping that from this year, going to the next year, we should be actually seeing some remarkable development in that respect. We have got very hardworking people in the rural areas. People really work very hard. It's sad to see that they get very little return for the effort that they put in, because I think there's no value attached to the time that people spend other than the cost of inputs. Okay, so the biggest strength we have is we've got the manpower. Okay, and I believe that it's been wasted because I will come to that when it comes to our weaknesses or the threats that exist. But on the strength side, I think I particularly emphasize that particular point, that there is abundant labor. The weaknesses I see is that we lack skills and guidance to a large extent, because people are planting, for example, if I really look at even our staple foods that we plant, we're not getting optimum output because of one reason. There is no soil testing facilities, for example. I mean, the country needs to have dedicated soil testing facilities for every district and every environment which produces foodstuff or whatever in the country. So from that perspective, I would say that I would consider the biggest weakness to be the lack of resources to facilitate a truer understanding of what we need to enhance our productivity in the agricultural sector. So the major threat, as is the norm also, is of course our dependence on seasonal rains. Okay, because if we had access to water supply, abundant water supply, like our neighboring countries, if we look at Zimbabwe for argument's sake, I mean, they've got sufficient water supply. Even if there's a drought, they're still able to water their fields and look after their fields. Whereas in Malawi, if we have even a spasmodic rainfall, we tend to have a loss of output. If we take this last season, for example, into consideration, we had, in terms of volume of rain over the rainy season, was equivalent to a normal rainy season, but the breaks that we were having in between were too long, and this affected the actual output of the crop. So I think the biggest thing is, if we were able to overcome the threat of water supply, that would go a long way. And besides that, naturally, is access to resources, to be able to understand our soil and to be able to amend the soil to suit the environment in which we are planting our products. The main challenge I had is to get advice towards the agronomy, if I may just sum it up. It's in the agronomical sector. Whatever we were doing here, we were like shooting in the dark. I personally didn't know how intricate and how detailed it is for us to look after, to nurture a tree from planting it through to the time of getting it to produce fruit. In that regard, we scratched around trying to get advice, but all the advice we're getting was literally textbook advice. We don't have really experienced people on the ground that could give us correct advice. We might be able to get it in areas where people are already planting certain products, but even then, I still felt that there is a great need for us to get deeper into getting resourceful people who have got not only the resourcefulness, but the experience behind them to be able to guide us to do things properly. In that regard, for me to overcome it, I turned to YouTube and to the internet, and ultimately I'm now trying to use AI, artificial intelligence, to try and map a way forward. The other biggest challenge, which was even bigger than everything else, is to get soil tests done. It's very expensive if you go to the commercial sector, and whilst we have ARIT, which are very helpful, they're also handicapped because of maybe the staffing or whatever it is. Can they cope with the demands of the nation? And are they capable of handling the pressures of being able to analyze the soil composition throughout the country? That's the biggest challenge that exists now. I'm talking from my own perspective. Maybe I'm ignorant. I don't know what else exists out there. But that is the biggest challenge that I feel has to be overcome. I always believe that the law of nature gives us all an opportunity to do what we would like to do. So it's got to come from inside you. I mean, if you're determined to achieve something, if you put your entire mind and resources into it and apply yourself fully and consistently with determination, you should be able to make progress. And I've proved it. At my age, I've actually managed to learn, and I'm still continuing to learn. So why not the younger generation? We've got a flexible mind and a fresh brain. Why can't they do it? That's where the challenge lies. Although in the villages, I still believe that education is still a very critical factor. And I still feel that civic education is equally important, because children are now running out of the school because they've got other things that distract them from education. I think that's an issue that maybe also needs to be looked at quite seriously by parents, not only by the society, but by parents individually. I mean, there is a lot of poverty in the rural areas, and those of us who can, we should always reach out to try and assist the very needy. But we must obviously draw a line between handouts and necessary interventions, because the handouts also tend to cripple the culture of working hard to earn. And the only way we can make each other appreciate what we earn in life is to earn it, rather than to just be given it on a silver platter, because that's when all waste creeps in.